that aren't necessarily as politically active as I am, basically, but for whatever reason, they're picking up on something, and they're receiving some sort of download or a vision, and
even some of the not socially acceptable people that are out there, they're talking about China and some of the things that they're seeing and hearing. They may be speaking it in a very radical way, but if you listen to what they're saying, I think they have actually a valid concern.
This is a book called Look to the Hills, and when I was at the gun show tabling, helping people access preparedness, supplies, and resources, a guy came by that wrote this book, Look to the Hills, or How to Survive in the Worst of Times. Ed Banks is the author. And things happen for a reason. I meet people for a reason that come into my life or come across certain pieces of information that are obviously a part of the larger puzzle. I want to read a part of the foreword here, and I had his book for about 3 weeks since I met him 3 weeks ago, and I just cracked it the other day, and I know we talked about this the other night, but I kind of opened this up and started reading in the foreword. He writes, "To better help you understand my writing, it would be beneficial to know my belief regarding the future of our country, events leading up to, nor the facts and reasons behind. My belief are not important to this writing, just the overview. Whatever the motive, an alliance will be struck between technology and manpower. This alliance will at some point find it mutually beneficial to reduce American influence on world affairs. After a missile strike takes out critical targets, crucial targets, troops will make an actual ground assault on the United States of America. The plan will be successful. The remaining Americans with a will to fight will leave their homes and retreat into the hills to elude invading armies. From established bases, we will begin a guerrilla-type action in an attempt to retake our homes. But plans will be hampered by division and personal ambitions. Problems will be multiplied by inability to distinguish between loyal Americans and the invaders. Racist and religious groups with an eye for power will see this as a God-given opportunity. It is to those desperate times in the wilderness that this book is addressed. Many will starve or freeze with food and warmth at their fingertips. The purpose of my writing is to provide a base of information to build on and the means by which to build. To give this information in an efficient, cost-effective manner, it is necessary to be brief. Brevity allows you to make a point, but doesn't always allow you to cover all the details you would like. Without a doubt, there are many who need this information, but cannot afford the shelf upon shelf of books or the specialized training required to obtain it. It's my interest to meet their need. We will win. Remember, we will win. And a lot of the visions about a potential invasion of the United States following a EMP or some sort of event, there's also the recurring theme of victory and daughters and fathers being more close than they've ever been, at least in this generation and prior generations, because it brings the people, families, communities together. This potential event that might be looked upon as a horrible thing, but karma.
Sure.
If this country does have some sort of a karmic destiny, it would make sense for something like this to happen after all the destruction that's been done in our name.
Sure. It's again back to karma for all of the real people of the world. There are those few who are in power that are controlling this corporate government ideology, and they're going into different facets of religion and racism and separatism. You know, it's just another play on separating.
Okay, we really need 3 hours for tonight's show.
Yes,
tonight's show is actually not easy for me to do, folks. I spent about 4 hours getting ready for the show, and I have enough material for 4 hours. I need volunteers to help me out because I want to make a series of documentary films. I don't know where the Portland videographers are that are out of work that want to get involved in something real, but I am looking for you. I'm looking very hard for you, for writers, for people that actually want to develop a creative team. One man, maybe I can do it all, but I don't think I can do it all, James. So I mean, I think I want to start getting really organized and develop my own independent news organization that requires, though, a group of people together to get something done that are going to cover this story. We're going to monitor what's taking place in our country with the move-in on the Northwest, all different types of global corporations, even Russia buying Oregon Still for $2.3 billion a couple years ago. Websites can be created, films can be made. Of course, we need to keep the pressure on our local representatives. A lot of them don't even know about some of this stuff. And some of them are involved in this on some level, on allowing these deals to go through. So if we're not involved actively, civilly, in our own local governments, I don't see how we can stop this. I'm just one person doing a TV show covering this news and information. We've got to take this information and do something with it.
Yeah.
We've got to make phone calls to Adam's office, maybe even go down there, speak before City Council, and bring up your concerns about the Chinese dictatorship, Communist Chinese Party, and what's been going on in China for a number of years, and how it's a danger, a threat to our sovereignty if we get too close.
And back to home here, who do you know in Mountain Home, Idaho? Mountain Home, Idaho is where China is very, very focused building.
At the you know what? Let's cover this one right now, which is kind of lead up, going to lead up into that. So we covered the baking stuff. And I read a couple years ago about the Japanese were buying up a bunch of grain silos in the United States and the Midwest. And these articles are not easy to come by once you find them. Sometimes they just disappear off the web. This one, though, just came in today. We just found this an hour ago. China inks $6.7 billion in U.S. soybean deal. Largest ever. China wrapped up its biggest ever one-off U.S. soybean purchase on Friday in a $6.7 billion deal, equivalent to nearly half of last year's total trade, surprising dealers who had expected a more symbolic volume. Do you want to read some of this right here?
Sure. And look for ink pens to go up on that.
Right.
China inks $6.7 billion. With a second tranche of deals on Friday to buy 8.45 million tons. That's the soybeans. Wow.
Yeah, this is...
Chinese firms traveling as part of President Hu state visit signed up to purchase 11.5 million tons of soybeans for delivery over the next year or so, enough to say Chinese total import needs for 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
2 or 3 months.
Yeah, this is shocking a number of people. Okay, we've got track number 4, stealth jet in China. Some of you heard about Robert Gates in China. He appeared to act as if he was surprised at what was taking place when they flew the stealth bomber, the J-20, over his head, basically. I don't think it's a surprise. I think it's staged, and that he's well aware of where China's at. But, of course, we wouldn't want... A lot of American people would be upset if he were to admit how much technology has been given to the Chinese over the last couple of years, last couple of decades. And so this isn't something that you're going to hear about on the MSNBC or CNN, only in small snippets and pieces of information. Lou Dobbs did cover some things. He did a report on the Hu Jintao's son is involved in Hutchison Vapato, and they're scanning in cargo, or they're creating, they are manufacturing, that corporation, these scanners that scan in the Chinese goods coming in to the port of Los Angeles. Essentially, the Chinese are scanning in their own cargo coming into our country. So we don't know that there's not something going on right now with stuff being brought in, be it troops, equipment, or other things that could be buried or stored underground or at other locations.
Easily, yeah.
So
now, on last night's show, we hosted a debate.
Go ahead, Bill.
Asked the question if the U.S. was headed for an arms race with China. And the reason we asked, just as the Pentagon announces Pentagon budget cuts, is because China is beefing up their military. Late last week, photos of China's first stealth fighter jet began appearing online. So some people started asking, is this a leak? Was this intentional? Well, I think that we have our answer. Now, while we don't have access to the actual video, today the Chinese held a test flight of the new jet. There's video showing the jet taking off, landing in southern China, but here's the interesting part. The flight happened the exact same day that U.S. Defense Secretary Robert Gates was paying a key visit to Beijing.
So it's the timing of it. It's the timing of all of this.
A senior U.S.
Gates being in China, and then of course shortly after that, Hu Jintao coming to the United States, and the ritual unfolding, the flag being put up in Washington D.C. These announcements that are being made in Chicago about the banks. Now Americans buy the yuan. Now the Chinese are buying up a bunch of soybeans. Now the Chinese are moving into Idaho. You see the escalation of all of this. It's an inside job, and we're going to go deeper into where this is going.
Appears larger
Listen here
than
what the
either
Secretary of
Russian
the
or
Air
US
Force
fighters.
says.
The
Michael
tension will grow
Donnelly,
as they fly
Secretary of the
farther
Air Force,
and
says
defend
this
nuclear
is the
weapons.
latest
Now,
step
keep
in a
mind, it would
long
probably
and
more
fruitful relationship between the two militaries, the United States and the Republic of Singapore, and especially between our two air forces.
That's Idaho, yeah. In fact, we have a video that we need to come. Bill, let's go to the next one because we're going to go back and also cover energy. And so it's the timing of this one as well. China and Russia have signed a pipeline deal. And this woman here, CCTV News, is covering this.
County of Mohe in Heilongjiang province on Saturday morning. The pipeline will improve the nation's energy import structure and promote economic development. The 1,000-kilometer-long pipeline will transport 15 million tons of crude oil annually from Russia to China from 2011 to 2030.
And that's not it, Bill. The next clip.
Operator of the Chinese
There's more.
Chinese and Russian armed forces
This is from a couple years
conducted
ago.
joint military exercises to defend against terrorism. The operation on Saturday was designed to strengthen military cooperation and the Sino-Russian strategic partnership. During the exercise,
preparing to take on terrorists
deployed more
that
than
excuse
30
to
fighter
merge
jets,
two superpowers
and
together.
forces
The
rolled
United
out
States,
over 100
rather,
tanks and armored
China
vehicles.
and
Air
Russia
and land
simulating
units
some sort of response, joint response to some sort of attack that requires both nations to be involved in such a response. And so on the screen before us, we can see some of these drills with tanks and helicopters using terrorism as the pretext. And this is a little bit familiar for those of us that are within the United States, because we have seen our own government use terrorism as the excuse to engage in martial law drills within the United States. So it raises a large question. What are the Chinese and Russians gearing up for in these drills? And these are massive. You can look these up on YouTube. And I would also Google and look into the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and it will provide a lot of information on this. But it doesn't give you the whole picture. But I mean, this looks like Waco, doesn't it? This is urban terrain. This is moving in. There are other clips where they're storming beach fronts. Looks a lot like Waco.
A formal inauguration at the Mountain Home Air Force Base on November 19, 2009 signified the partnership between two nations that will span at least the next 25 to 20,
Bill,
25 years.
Get track number 9 ready. We're going to go ahead and jump right into that. And so, yeah, this is the name of it right here. If you go to Google this at home, Singaporean Air Force being trained in the United States. Alex Ansary, December 19, 2009. It's at alexansary.net. Click on perspective, and then the article's right there. And I'm going to have all, it's already there. It's got like 15, 20 hyperlinks, and I've got 4 or 5 videos. We only have time to show you one tonight, but this is from earlier this year, or last year, 2010, track number 9. This is the inauguration. You're talking about this right here. This is in Idaho.
Thank you. That's our backyard, brother.
Right. Yeah, that's one state over from us, folks. For those of us watching this in Oregon.
1,000 miles away.
They're training the Singaporean Air Force Base in Idaho.
It actually handles much like an E model. It's got more power.
Well, I kind of like it. I kind of like working together in different militaries. You know, got to add T-15 jet. You know, overall it's going to keep the world safe. No new world order. You know, it's glad to be a new American.
Well, now we know we don't have to bomb China.
Yeah.
Right. Because they're our buddies.
You know, a lot of people are just perceiving this as a complete impossible scenario that there would ever be any conflict with China. And I think what's important to understand in this equation is it may not come down to a war with China. It's been suggested by many other analysts out there that are observing what's taking place in America that the Chinese peacekeepers could be invited in a crisis if civil unrest were to really break out within the United States.